How's it going, everyone? I'm Landon with LMR.com. Today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at our factory style heater hose kit that is designed for the first generation 1993 to 1995 Ford Lightnings. So the backstory on how this kit came to fruition is pretty darn simple. We were wanting a heater hose kit that included the necessary components to restore the heater hoses on your Lightning, all while retaining a factory look. First, I'm going to talk about a few of the parts that stand out the most and bolsters our phenomenal attention to detail. The abrasion-resistant tubing sections in this kit are pre-cut to the correct length and feature the same durometer as the factory pieces. These install over the supply and the return hose and protect these hoses from rubbing against the vacuum canister. Now, since the F-150s fell under the same TSB as the Fox Mustang and other Ford vehicles from this era, we include a heater core flow restrictor. This installs into the supply hose and helps regulate the flow of coolant so that the heater core does not overpressurize. The last detail-oriented part is the pre-bent metal tube and short hose assembly that attaches to the alternator and installs onto the fitting in the water pump. Alongside these great parts will be two sections of heater hose for the supply and return, 5 factory-style constant tension hose clamps, and 6 12-inch butyl strips to fill the void at the firewall around the heater core fittings. Today we are going to install this kit into our 1995 Lightning here in the shop, and if it interests you, we do have a video explaining how to flush the cooling system in your Lightning. If you want to give that a watch, that can be found in the description. So before you start, verify that the truck is not at operating temperature or it's had adequate time to cool off if you were driving it. Whenever that has been verified, position a clean drain pan or bucket underneath the drain plug on the radiator. Open the radiator cap to vent the cooling system. Remove or open the drain plug and let the coolant drain. Allow a good amount of coolant to drain from the system and then close the drain plug. For additional working room near the water pump, it may be necessary to remove the serpentine belt, although this is an optional step. To do this, rotate the belt tensioner counterclockwise with a 15mm socket and a breakover bar to release tension. Go ahead and remove the belt. Locate the hoses at the firewall. Slide a rag under these hoses to absorb any coolant that may run out. Slide both of the clamps down the hoses with a pair of pliers or a dedicated set of constant tension hose clamp pliers. If needed, remove the existing butyl sealer from the firewall. Depending on the age of the truck and the condition of the hoses, they may not easily slide off of the heater core fittings. If they don't, simply cut the hose. We're going to remove the return hose first, so remove the 1/2-inch bolt from the alternator. Slide back the clamp. Position a rag underneath the hose that is connected to the water pump. Depending on how much coolant was initially drained, there may be some coolant that runs out of the water pump. Remove the hose from the pump, and this portion can be removed from the truck. Similar to the return hose, cut the supply hose if it's needed. Slide back the clamp on the supply hose and remove the hose from the straight fitting. If you had to cut the supply and return hoses, you'll need to fully remove the short sections of hose that are still connected to the heater core. To do this, carefully make an incision with a razor blade and then remove the hose from the heater core. Do this for the other hose. At this time, you can clean and remove some of the ugly butyl from around the heater core fittings. After that, we'll need to install the flow restrictor into the supply hose. Since this will be a tight fit, I would lubricate the flow restrictor and the inside of the hose with a touch of WD-40 or a thin film of dielectric grease. You want to install this restrictor with the tapered end facing towards the flow of coolant and on the end of the hose that will connect to the heater core. Push the flow restrictor inside of the hose a few inches with a socket. To help ease the installation of the new hoses onto their respective fittings, lubricate the inside of the hoses. Go ahead and position one of the constant tension clamps over the supply hose and slide it over the heater core fitting that is closest to the driver's side of the truck. Don't position the clamp just yet, as we still need to install some of the provided butyl, which we'll get to towards the end of the video. Slide one of the abrasion-resistant tubing sections over the supply hose. Position another clamp over the hose and install the hose onto the straight metal fitting. You can go ahead and situate this clamp into place. Lubricate the short section of hose on the metal hose assembly. Position this into place and slide a clamp over the hose. While you're holding the clamp with the pliers, install the hose onto the fitting in the water pump and then situate the clamp into place. Check and see if the tab on the metal tube aligns with the alternator. If it doesn't, depress the clamp and reclock the hose until the tab aligns with the bolt hole in the alternator. Go ahead and reinstall the bolt and tighten it down. If it's needed, carefully clock the metal tube so that the fitting faces towards the 9 o'clock position. Next, we'll mock up the return hose. Lubricate both ends of the hose and install it onto the heater core. Follow the supply hose and then hold the hose alongside the metal tube. You may have to cut the return hose to length. Whenever this is done, remove the hose from each fitting. Slide a clamp onto the hose and install the hose onto the heater core. Don't position this clamp into place just yet. Slide the other section of the abrasion-resistant tubing over the hose. Position the clamp over the hose and install the return hose over the metal tube. Go ahead and situate the clamp. Align the abrasion-resistant tubing and make sure that they are positioned above the vacuum canister, which is the factory location. Now we can go ahead and use some of the provided butyl sealer to seal the area around the firewall and heater core fittings. You'll want to tear it into small sections and lightly push it into place. A small plastic pry tool will help with this, as well as smoothing it out whenever you have applied enough butyl. Go ahead and situate the clamps. Go ahead and remove the cap from the radiator and reuse the coolant that was just removed, or use fresh coolant. It's completely up to you. Close the cap on the radiator and thoroughly clean the area. Go ahead and reinstall the Serpentine belt. Double check your work and then start your truck. After that, you're good to go. Now that we have this kit installed, it looks just like the original components, which was our main goal when curating this heater hose kit. And honestly, what's not to love about factory-looking replacement parts? As always, for the most up-to-date product information, pricing, and availability on anything in the video, please reference lmr.com. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. You appreciate our commitment to first generation Ford Lightning parts, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and turn on notifications. That way you're notified every time we release something new. Until next time, you guys know what to do. For all things Ford Lightning, keep it right here with the real enthusiasts, lmr.com.